Good morning, America. Good evening, India. This is 𝐚𝐤𝐫𝐞𝐬. This week, we are going to discuss a very important topic, California fire, which has happened just this week, which has impacted 29,000 acres, 57 billion plus in economic damages, 180,000 people evacuated. There are 10 plus deaths despite all this hardships. So we are going to talk about it. I'm going to invite Sam Pitroda to give a quick context introduction, and then we will discuss. Go ahead, sir. Morning.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Prembada, and greetings to every one of our friends who has been able to join us. It is indeed a very devastating situation in California. Like many of you, I've been watching carefully, on and off, and just cannot comprehend the devastation taking place, where 10,000 homes have been completely destroyed. Hundreds and hundreds of acres of land in many pockets. Looks like a war zone. This is in a very rich part of America, especially California, LA. And in spite of all the good efforts, all the resources at hand, we have not been able to save these properties. My heart goes out to people who lost everything. Looking at some of the images on TV, you can feel it in your heart, how difficult it would be for people going back to their home when they see that only thing left is almost nothing. I was touched by two little shots I saw on TV. One, there was a doorbell to ring. Doorbell could ring, but there was nothing in the back. House was gone. Another that took my breath away was a boy going to college somewhere, telling his father on phone that I know you are all going through difficult time. I want to come home. And father said, yes, my son, but there is no home to come to. Home doesn't exist. Okay. We are all in a hotel. So I think the situation here is very unique. Something like this has never happened. I've been in US for 60 years. I've seen fires on and off. I've seen disasters from different angle, from Katrina to tornadoes and hurricanes and snowfalls, and this is something very different. The question that comes to my mind, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, is what are we doing with new technologies, new tools, new techniques to contain fire? Is it possible to do something very different? You know, we read a great deal about IoT, homes of the future, where you can control everything, security, drives, this, that. But I have not seen much on fire prevention. I have not seen different kinds of sprinkler system. different kind of fire hydrant, different kind of drones, like this automated car. Can we design different kind of robot that just full of water tank and goes wherever the fire is, and like fire department sprays water? So I think the question to ask is, why new technologies have not really been effective in controlling the spread of fire like this? I'm sure there are experts who have looked at it. I'm sure there are capable people are still looking at it. But I think we need to think out of the box right now. This is becoming not only a challenge in California, US, but world over. Fires didn't matter much when the population was not affected that much. There were forest fires all the time. And that was part of a natural phenomena. And we all accepted that. But when it begins to affect hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who one day find that they have no place to go, that's when we have to rethink of technology and tools. And I'm sure there is a lot that needs to be done. I'm not convinced that everything that needs to be done has been done. Whether there are new ways to approach infrastructure building, or bringing water to the location, or changing the air pattern, or cloud seeding for artificial rain. We talk about wind blowing at 50 miles. Is there technology to change the wind pattern for a while? Is it possible? I don't know. So those are the questions that has sort of occupied my mind for the last few days. I've started listing these ideas. Again, I'm not an expert, I'm novice, I have no idea, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to devote some time to educate myself. The immediate concern is what happens to people who have lost everything. How can we help them? How can we support them? How can we be with them? And I'm sure there is a large community of Indians there. And it's not about Indians, it's about everybody. I remain very concerned about these fires. I've been constantly monitoring it, learning about it, educating myself, and I can't get it out of my mind. The images are daunting. I have a daughter who lives close by. Fortunately, she has not been affected yet, but you never know. Okay. There are lots of people I know in Hollywood, Beverly Hills that I have met, and I know how they are affected. And it hurts. So what we could do today is get your views on this. And I want this conversation to be more interactive, as I said last time. And hope you all can speak up, express your views, and not just ask few questions here and there, but really become an active part of this conversation. All the statistics are available, so I'm not going to add to that. There is a lot of information available on television, YouTube, news media, radio, you name it. You can Google and you will find huge amount of information. So I'm not going to add to that. But I hope we collectively can think about these issues deeply and see how we can learn from it and help over a period of time finding a path forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. But I just want to ask this whole discussion with starting with the question. The insurance companies of California have withdrew the fire-related claims just 2 months ago for this particular region. If the insurance companies are able to predict, how come the government, the local state government, California government, is not able to predict a disaster of this magnitude and able to get the right help and increase the budget spending for all the fire workers, etc.? So that's a huge governance gap which is observed by a lot of civil society. What are your thoughts?
There are many issues, not just the funding issue, but there are issues of maintenance. One water source was under maintenance. Then the number of fire trucks in the maintenance, the number was too large. So there are lots of issues of resource mobilization, not just the funding, but resource mobilization related to equipment, infrastructure. Okay, so that's part of the game. Okay, but the point is, why didn't it generate alert ahead of time? That's the question you are raising. It's not that insurance company knew, then government did not know. If insurance companies know, government also know. They're all part of the same loop. Okay, insurance company acted fast because they have personal financial interest. And they can say, oh, we are canceling this insurance because there is fire coming. You can't do that. Okay. I'm sure this will go to court at some point in time and there'll be some, conversation on it. Okay. So someone needs to relook at the entire supply chain, logistics, in light of 2025. See, when I look at what is going on the ground, I see that a lot of the infrastructure from fire hose to fire truck to dropping water through helicopter is all that I have known for last 50 years. Okay. While technology has changed so much everywhere else, what has happened to fire prevention technology? I want to learn, that's all. Okay. Are there special foams that can be used? Is there a way with big windmills to change the flow of the air in the area? Okay. Can you design 4 big windmills outside that just during this kind of situation does not allow air to flow this way? Okay, but contain somewhere? I don't know. Okay, but these are the questions I'm asking. And I know there are experts. I know there are very qualified, experienced, educated domain experts. No question about it. But we need to support them. We need to talk to them. We need to, understand more from them. Okay. They know the answers.
The house construction material, wood versus concrete, whether those kind of things research into any of the fire-prone material may be of help, sir?
Possible. That is possible. If you go look at the buildings which are made out of steel and glass, completely, what happens to those buildings? So there are a lot of issues. But most of these buildings were 50-year or older anyway. That area is pretty old. Okay.
Another important thing, which I think may be very curious for a lot many of our Indian folks, which is the water sources owned by private players. So I think in this case, this particular region was said to be deprived of water supply and were supposed to be in drought. So, and the reason was told is, I think political opposition of Democrats, Republican is complaining that, including Trump, everybody saying the California water supply is kind of completely messed up. It's kind of given to a lot of private players. Since 1994, there was a Monterey agreement through which some of this large corporates into the agriculture, they are owning the 2/3 of water of California. So, which is the primary reason, and kind of there's a lot of discussion happening around that in Twitter. So, what do you think? Kind of America gets into this kind of very interesting models where even private players can play a huge role in the governance, which is leading to this.
Possible, because whenever you have privatization of public sector responsibility, the motive really moves to maximizing profit for the shareholder as opposed to serving the stakeholders. Nothing new. Okay. So there has to be a proper balance of private versus public. There has to be a sort of way to follow the performance of the private sector vis-a-vis public responsibilities. And these are all complex questions. Okay.
Sure. Premita, you have any questions? Go ahead. You live outside US, you can certainly have a different perspective on this whole thing. Are there any questions from Twitter also? Go ahead.
My question is, how do we tackle more of this water shortage? Because what happened was that the fire hydrants ran dry, and there were so the government, the current government, they're saying that the hydrants were not equipped to tackle wildfires. They were only used to tackle fires in one or two households. So in future, how do we tackle this water shortage problems in such areas?
Well, one water body was under repair, I'm told, and that had something to do with it. Okay. And I don't know how much of the ocean water can be used for fire prevention. I mean, you have ocean next door, and how can you say we have water shortage? Yeah, I don't understand. Okay. It is right on the ocean front. There's a fire going on, and you say we have water shortage. So how do we use ocean water today? Okay. Is that mixed with the supply? Can it be mixed with the supply? Okay. Tough questions.
And also, sir, on Twitter, there's a whole debate going on from the Twitter head himself, saying that the fire department is, they have inducted a lot of diversity, DEI people. So that's also one of the reasons why, the fire department was inefficient or ineffective. That's how it's playing out on social media. So your
Well,
thoughts?
everybody, has their angle. I don't think diversity is to be blamed for lack of performance. It takes time for diversity to be trained properly and all. So that's part of the progress. You can't say, okay, that means we shouldn't have diverse workforce. That's not the answer. Better training is the answer. Okay. And there are a lot of issues. Now everybody will jump and start pointing fingers. Okay. You didn't do your job, and I didn't do this, and you didn't do that. But the bottom line is it really the opportunity to revisit the entire system and prepare a roadmap where 2025 will go in the history as the time to learn lessons on wildfires. That would be ideal if there was a big report coming out of this disaster on how to deal with wildfires in the next 50 years. That would be very useful. Okay. So I would recommend setting up a special commission to look at California's wildfires and the path forward for the next 50 years. Yes, Nagendran had something.
Yeah, I can read it out, sir. Nagendra Madhavaram from Facebook is saying, California's wildfires are national catastrophe. The federal government should establish a task force composed of experts from various fields to develop strategies for minimizing the impact of this.
I agree, and I'm sure they may have done something. They should have, or they already have.
Well, the only thing is it should be apolitical in nature and should see there's already a political color to this whole problem. I think Trump and Elon Musk has said many things. Interestingly, I see a lot of very reasonable kind of facts also coming out of that arguments. For example, California have donated 660 million to Israel and some parts to Gaza last year. So how come they don't have funds for their own mess? So are you putting money where the mouth is? Is a big question, which I think first fix.
Yeah, but 60 million is a small fund for California.
No, 660, sir. 660.
660.
Okay. Yeah.
Possible. I don't know the budget issues, So.
And also with respect to this fire workers, it was a $25 million budget cut, etc. stuff. Very small budget what they had is they are trying to shrink it. I don't know. See, these kind of essential services. And also I heard the point from Priyamata. See, I am a great champion for diversity, equity and inclusion. But can we, kind of for the sake of it, can we try to thrust it upon on each and every essential functions also? Maybe on the essential functions you can try, okay, you want to develop additional workforce, you can do that, but you cannot compromise on your core workforce, saying that okay, for the sake of DEI you cannot compromise on a core functional leaders efficiency, right? Which is what I think I
don't buy this idea of the fact that diversity brings in efficiency. I don't buy that idea. Okay, that's a false notion. Diversity is diversity. It takes time to train. You got to invest in that. And in the process of this journey, there is some inefficiency. You got to live with it. In the name of inefficiency, you cannot stop diversity and saying, oh, in this sector, no diversity. No such thing. I don't buy
figure out an alternate course to additionally maybe bring in investment to bring more maybe
more training, more whatever required, and put up with some inefficiency in the beginning, because you got to look at long-term implications. Okay, it's like human rights. Okay, it should apply universally. You cannot apply on a selective basis.
I think to a great extent it is equivalent to our Indian caste system, right? See, whatever we are talking here, this whole DEI thing.
Everywhere is the same thing. It's not just, everywhere inclusion is a challenge. Yeah.
Okay. Be it LGBTQIA or Black. So I think those are the two communities this whole political propaganda is now targeting, that because of those DEI hires, the resources became ineffective and the leadership became ineffective, and because of which they didn't take the right decisions and things. This now led to this whole mess.
Yeah.
So okay, coming back, Rahul is saying very unfortunate. All around the world, government spending on safety is on decline.
Sure.
And Prakash Pitroda is saying, feeling very sad to hear this.
Yep.
Priyamata, if you have any other questions, yeah, go ahead.
So there's a report like Trump has said that there was more of protection of endangered species than human life. That's what he is accused with this the wildfires. The reason there was shortage of water in protecting endangered species than humans. So what do you have to say about that?
I don't know. It's possible. But, it just, so what? Let's assume that that is true. Okay. So it's okay. Some people were more interested in protecting endangered species. Okay. But that shouldn't take us away from the main core issue. Okay. So this is no time to really start pointing fingers at this and that. Okay. Keep your eyes on the ball and say, how do we create a roadmap for the future from the lessons we learned this time to really make sure that this event in 2025 becomes a guiding light for the future wildfires. That should be the goal, according to me. What is happening and what has happened, we cannot change. Sad, unfortunate, okay, but it has already happened. So one group can begin to fix that, while the other group can begin to look at the future.
Okay, we have Rahul Chaudhary from Facebook saying a 1.5 mm thick plastic floating cover was damaged. The 117 million gallon reservoir was emptied. $100,000 short repair job. Weird, it was empty since February 2024. Probe started yesterday. 15 arson fires started yesterday. Were stomped out. They will nail it soon. So I think Rahul's point's also very important. There are a lot of people who are living in Los Angeles believe that it's a human act, not an act of God or a natural calamity. Because the police also have arrested a few of the arsonists who are alleged to be that they have set the fire. So there's an angle because there are two different parts of whole Los Angeles who kind of started with this fire on a similar time frame. So there are a lot of theories as well as conspiracy theories. So what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know what the facts are. Some people believe that all the fires were not natural. I have no idea. I'm assuming all the fires are natural. I'm assuming that there is no foul play. Okay. And we have to just go with that until proven otherwise.
So can we do like rainforest harvesting? Like in California has a lot of rain. So
yeah, that's what I said. But can we do, like I remember during Chinese game, there was seeding of rain or something. Okay. So I'm sure California people know and experts know. They must have looked at it, rain seeding. The question is, what is the state of the technology? How effective that is? When can it be done? What does it cost to do it? And these are the kind of things we need to review together in this report. And remember, this is not just for the US. This is a phenomena that affects lots of countries. You go to South Africa, we have huge fire problems, So this particular one is different because it really affected large number of homes in a rich area. Yeah. And it's a highly dense area. If fire was in some remote area and 10,000 acres were burned, fine. People would, pay attention, but not be concerned as much as they are, because here people lost lots of properties.
10 million, 50 million worth. A lot of the entire set of those neighborhood was told that all the houses are more than 10 million range.
Yeah.
So another question, Sam, this again about water. So I think you raised a very important point. Why can't they use the ocean water? Is it the saltiness has to do some play with the firefighting?
I don't know. I'm sure salty water would be okay to, put fire down. Okay. But that has never been a plan to draw water from ocean into the fire hydrant in the community. Maybe that should be relooked at. Yeah.
And this is again another political report, which is the Republican camp is saying, while the fire was happening, the entire house, US House, was discussing only one thing, which was about passing a bill to protect Israeli PM Netanyahu from the international court. They call it as International Criminal Court, ICC. And so they are saying that was the priority of Democrats, and they never cared for this whole thing. So what's your take on that?
Possible. They have a schedule of their own and they have to follow their schedule. So I can't comment on it. It is their schedule. I'm sure it was part of their schedule and they had to follow it.
No, but being a Democrat base for maybe many decades, California state, I don't know whether the Democrats shouldn't be worried for a fire of this much magnitude and
They should be worried. Of course they are worried. How could they not be worried?
Okay.
Their future votes are at stake.
There's a lot of anger now against Democrats now.
Sure. Yep.
And any other questions, Priyamata? I don't see any other questions from the community.
Yeah, there is nothing on Twitter. But just I would just like to know how the world should, like everyone else, should take a lesson from this calamity, where especially even in India, how can we prepare ourselves, seeing with the scale of such devastation? If US can experience, any country can experience this unfortunate tragic incident. So how should we prepare ourselves for future?
I think every community needs to really seriously look at all emergency responses. Communities never come together on emergency responses. Fire is one example. Flood is another example. Drought is third example. Okay. Landslide, you see, is another example. So if you look at natural disaster in a community, depending upon where you live, if you're living in mountain area, river area, rural area, urban area, whatever, you've got to create community organizations to respond to disaster management. You don't have that. Nobody really looks at that carefully because they believe it is government's responsibility.
Involve civil society is what you are meaning?
Say it again.
Involve the civil society is
Yes,
what?
it has to be a civil society issue. It is my community. It is my neighbor. It's my cousin. Okay. And fine, government is doing their job. Okay. What is my responsibility? I can't throw that on somebody else. Okay, and then start pointing finger and blaming. If I'm prone to flood every time, I have to be prepared to respond to floods every time. Okay. If I'm prone to mudslides, I got to create community response to mudslide. Okay. So I think it is a major community responsibility. Of course, government intervention is important, funding is important, and all that. But where are community organizations responsible for emergency management systems? Then that community organization can force governments to do certain things based on their understanding, knowledge, and conditions. But you don't have emergency response-based community organizations.
I think it makes a great sense, Sam, but I want to dive deep. So I have seen, at least in Chennai flood back in India, Tamil Nadu, maybe many years ago, I was part of putting a community of volunteers together. And the more than the government, I think the volunteers and the civil society was the one which came in front, and they recovered from the whole thing, actually, at least the first response. So be it even getting gasoline for the primary hospital to save even the ICU patients at the mid of the night when the entire city was flooded. It was done by a lot of volunteers like us, and we got it done. So I think civil society's roles can be humongous, but whether they should partner with this essential services, or what do you mean? It's like, or they should be having privilege to steer the funding, the way this essential services organizations are functioning.
First, you got to organize. Then you have to have collective voice. If you're not organized and if you don't have collective voice, why would anybody pay attention to you? But that requires a lot of work. Who's willing to put that work? I mean, you look at our Seva Dals. Okay, what are they doing in terms of Seva? What is their role during fire? Or what is their role during disaster? They sit there with a bucket of water. Is that what they are supposed to do? Okay. Is there a manual on it? Is there a community manual which says in case of flood, you do this, and in case of fire, you do this? Yeah.
First organize and then partner. How this partnership can happen? So it's a very important idea, but I'm just trying to kind of civil society should become collective. Then
no, partnership will happen because of moral authority. You will have a collective voice of the community, and collective voice of the community will be represented in the government and everywhere else in the policies. Okay.
Okay, Namita from YouTube is saying its average surface temperature in 2024 was the warmest on record, according to an analysis led by NASA scientists. Global temperature in 2024 were 2.3 degrees Fahrenheit, above the agency's 20th century baseline, which tops the record set in 2023. So this kind of things will happen. Doesn't we focus on fixing the core climate change? So this kind of things will happen. So yeah, I think that's the point. So
Namita is very right that this issue ultimately boils down to climate control. This fire issue cannot be seen in isolation as a fire. It is directly linked to climate change. I assume that that is given. I'm not debating that at all. Okay. So climate change is at the core of all of this. All natural disasters and the frequency, increasing frequency of that, has roots in climate change. More tornadoes, more hurricanes, more water floods, more wildfires. All of these are a result of global warming. We are all convinced of that. That's given. And we are not paying attention to global warming. People have given lip service for the last 25 years, I remember the first conference on global warming in Rio that Nitin Desai, he was Deputy Secretary General of UN at that time. And Nitin Bhai, very good friend of mine, organized that first conference in Rio. And it was supposed to be a landmark event. But roughly 35 years down the road, we find that situation hasn't changed much. Of course, there have been a lot of progress made in many areas, but temperatures have been going up and up, and not down. Look at the results. Okay. So this is a man-made disaster.
Is United Nations become defunct, Sam? Who should be championing this climate change and bringing changes all across globe?
People should be. United Nations is one organization, but there are qualified scientists who understand these things. They've spent their life on it, and we better pay some attention to them.
Another angle now in this Elon Musk, Donald Trump camp, there is a entire kind of putting all of this climate change as a conspiracy theory kind of angle, which is also very dangerous. I don't know. What are your thoughts? It's kind of...
I believe climate change is real. I've seen it, experienced it in 60 years. The place I was born, Titilagarh, in Orissa, is at times the hottest place in India. You can check it out. Small little town. Why is that? And I've been thinking about it for many years, partly because that town is surrounded by mountains. And mountains had a lot of green trees. All those trees are been cut, and there is bare rock sits there now. So the sun rays heat that rock like an oven, and that rock then heats the city like oven. It's that simple. It's not very complicated science. Okay. If you had enough trees on those rocks that we had in the past, trees will absorb a lot of that heat. Okay. And city won't be that hot. Now, everywhere we have reduced our forest cover, green cover, and we are seeing the effect of it. Yeah. I have seen the number of forests going down in 60 years. I've seen the land captured because of expansion. I remember once on a flight 45 years ago, I had a guy sitting next to me from London to Delhi, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to India to buy some land." I said, "Where?" He said, "A small place called Gurgaon." 50 years ago, maybe. Gurgaon. I said, "Why would you buy land there?" He said, "Oh, I just want to buy 4 or 5 acres for future." I said, "Who would go there?" And look at what happened to Gurgaon today. Okay. Gurgaon today is a metropolis. Okay. It was supposed to be green farm. Same thing has happened to our animals. We have taken their land away. Tigers are now living in cities area, close to city areas. Okay. We have encroached in their territory. So I think there are a lot of issues here. But like Nimita said, global warming is at the core of it.
In fact, if you are trying to find out the reason behind the Orissa, the Titilgarh village where you are born, the reason behind the climate change, if you ask our right-wing friends, they will say, since it produced Sambitroda, it's hot.
More power to them.
See, knowingly or unknowingly, see, in fact, while writing the New Year greetings, I wrote this to all my friends like you. Let us all be compassionate to our fellow citizens of this tiny little world and ask Mother Nature to be more forgiving in this year. I don't know. This certainly, I know that I for sure greatly believe that climate change is kind of there, because of which we are seeing all of these huge changes in our lives. Yeah. So coming back, Sam, one another thing. 80% of water of California is spent on agriculture, but agriculture is producing only 2% of the GDP for California. It's a very important argument put by a Republican, and Republicans are complaining that Democrats don't know how to put where the money where the mouth is. So, what are your thoughts? Is it like see, water and all this resource allocation should be based on GDP?
I think it's a very, strange argument. You see, California is the breadbasket of America. California produces cabbages, fruits, dry fruits, almonds, pistachio. Okay. California feeds the entire country. It may be 2% of GDP, so don't get confused with numbers, because the chip that California produces costs $100,000, and the orange that California produces costs 10 cents. Okay. So everything cannot be translated into numbers. Okay. California must spend water on producing fruits and not just on producing chips. I don't mean potato chips, I mean semiconductor chips. Yeah. You can't say I have enough bucket of water and should I use that for produce potato chips or IT chips? Yeah. I don't think those trade-offs make sense. Yeah. Farmers need water, and semiconductor people also need water. Okay. So California is a very important state for agriculture produce in the country. Yeah. And all California farmers should be given fair share of water. No argument.
No, certainly. Only thing
So
is that
a lot of these educated people confuse the issue. Everything is not about numbers and arguments and productivity and efficiency, and graphs and charts. Yeah. Sometimes numbers don't tell you the truth. Numbers can be twisted. Yeah. A lot of people say numbers don't lie. Of course, numbers can lie.
Sure. Siddharth Rautre from LinkedIn is saying, I used to live near LA, same place. When the Sierra fire every year is equally bad, is the climate change is real? One man, one tree is not enough. One man, 60 trees is needed now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you think the next war, in case if there is a world war, Sam, whether it's going to be a cyber war or a water war?
Wars will continue. I'm not sure. I'm not good at predicting these things. But I'm concerned about human conflicts of all kinds. Whether it is conflict related to climate control, water, or territory. Okay. The human conflict resolution has to improve. Our conflict resolution methods are archaic, obsolete. everybody is ready to draw a gun as soon as there is an argument. And nobody is saying, hey, as soon as an argument, let's have a cup of coffee together. Let's talk. Let's hold hands and see what we can do together. I think this is the fundamental difference in Gandhian approach to conflict resolution and Western approach to conflict resolution. Western approach to conflict resolution, if I may say, and may not be doing justice to it, is to show power and strength. That I am powerful, I have more strength, so you better listen to me. I'm going to set the rule because I have the gold. Okay? I'm going to fix it. And Gandhian approach to conflict resolution is communication, coordination, cooperation. Yeah. Listen to people. Pay attention to their needs. And conflict resolution is at the core of the challenge we have. Global warming is conflict resolution issue. Wars in Gaza, Ukraine, Somalia is a conflict resolution issue. Border issues with China and India or with anywhere else similarly is a conflict resolution issue. We have paid very little attention to ways and means of resolving conflicts. We set up committees, we have roundtable discussions, but then nothing happens. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I remember in young days when there was a Vietnam War committee set up, they took months to decide the shape of the table for a meeting. And who would sit where? It's crazy. Okay, you're trying to resolve a conflict and you're worried about this. Just sit somewhere, on the floor and get it done. Okay.
So do you think that the United Nations has become obsolete now? Like they don't decide on major issues like wars, and they just are bystanders now, and lobbying plays a lot of part.
Yeah, but I think United Nations have been made into that. It is not that they are that. Okay, they've been made into that. They have the power, but they can't exercise. They are controlled by financial powers. They have this whole architect which is wrong, which is the veto power. That veto power architecture is a fundamental problem in UN. Okay, you cannot have veto power for anybody. What is this veto power? Who came up with the idea of veto power? They did, because they want to control it. Okay, you got to abolish this veto power business, and you got to resolve conflict collectively. You cannot resolve a conflict when there is a veto power. How can you resolve a conflict when there is a veto power that I know that there's some guy sitting out somewhere is ultimately going to decide? Okay, so it is time to really relook at the whole architecture of the UN. But nobody wants to do it because they have vested interest. That's the way it is set up. So they can control it and veto it. Okay. How could out of 194 countries, 5 countries decide to get a veto power? Who told them that you can get a veto power? Okay. Who gave them that? But if you question, they say, oh, you are a part of a conspiracy theory. Come on, give me a break. Okay. So I think everywhere, finally, we boil this thing down to humanity. Are we really interested in human development or not? Are we really focused on planet and people, or profit and power? I mean, that is the bottom line everywhere. Okay. The rest of the stuff is all operational. Okay.
Awesome, sir. It was a great set of interaction today. I think a lot of very meaningful, very deep discussions. I think hope some of it will be very useful for those who are watching. We have 350 users who are watching right now as we speak. Looking forward
Well,
to
thank you, everybody.
discuss another topic.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe, in the next coming weeks, we either will discuss some of the things about the caste constitution stuff, which I think
Maybe you might want to ask people to just give you some suggestions also. Is there a way to get feedback from people?
Yeah, we have a WhatsApp group, and we can certainly
So why don't you just ask them saying, how is it going? What would you like to see in 2025? Let's put together a little plan for 2025. Overall plan of topics and all that, and how we want to do it. Are we doing the right things? What do people like? What is that people don't like? What we need to fix? Let's just ask those 3 fundamental questions, which are very important questions to me all the time. What is working? What is not working? What needs fixing?
I think there's an audience increase I can see over the past good 8 to 10 shows, Sam. YouTube, which used to cap our show like 50, 100 users. Now I'm seeing 500,000 users. And Twitter have always been 2,000, 3,000 or 5,000 people watching our show, even after that.
Let's also have an objective for 2025. What number do we want?
Sure.
Okay, so why don't you and Priyamvada do a little, 4 or 5 page PowerPoint presentation on our plan for the group for 2025.
Sure thing, sir.
Okay?
Sounds good, sir. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean. Thank you.